Oh my
Who's
God.
first? Come on. I'd like to know about the cover of your forthcoming your album. the one with subterranean music blues in it. I'd like to know about the meaning of the photograph with you and wearing a Triumph T-shirt.
What would you want to know about it?
Well, I'd like to know that that's an equivalent photograph. It means something. It's got a philosophy in it. And I'd like to know. I'd like to know visually what it represents to you, because you're a part of that.
I haven't really looked at it that much. I don't really.
I've thought about it a great deal.
It was just taken one day when I was sitting on the steps, you know. I don't really remember anything very too much about it.
But what about the motorcycle as an image in your songwriting? You seem to like that.
Oh, we all like motorcycles to some degree.
I do.
Do you think of yourself primarily as a singer or as a poet?
No, I think of myself more as a song and dance man, you know.
This is Bob Dylan, one of America's most illustrious and mysterious icons, on December 3rd, 1965. He had 5 concerts scheduled for the San Francisco Bay Area, and his team insisted that he hold a press conference in the KQED studios, which was an educational television studio at the time. He told his team that he was ready to talk about anything anyone wanted to talk about, but he did end up getting some very interesting questions like you saw in the intro to this video. At this press conference, there were all kinds of people. News reporters, college journalists, friends of Dylan like Allen Ginsberg, Larry Hankin, which you might know from Breaking Bad.
Up the amperage.
And also fanboys that think way too much about artists' hidden meetings, which if you knew anything about Bob Dylan, you'd find hilarious. The man in this video, seemingly nervous, skipping over his words, not remembering the title of the album that he's questioning Dylan about, and forgetting which songs are on the albums. He says, the album with Subterranean Homesick Blues on it when referring to the album cover of Highway 61 Revisited, when in actuality that song is the opening track for the album released prior to that, bringing it all back home. In any case, this man asks what the album art means to Dylan, to which he laughs at, and then after a long pause, replies,
I haven't really looked at it that much.
You can tell throughout this conversation that Bob is a little put off by this guy who's clearly trying to suck a meaning out of an image that doesn't really have one. Like Dylan said,
it was just taken one day when I was sitting on the steps, you know. I don't really remember anything very too much about it.
After a bit of awkward silence, someone from the audience chimes in and says,
Do you think of yourself primarily as a singer or as a poet?
To which Bob Dylan hilariously replies,
No, I think of myself more as a song and dance man, you know.
What?
Song and dance man?
Why?
Oh, I don't think we have enough time to really go into that.
This clip perfectly demonstrates Dylan's outlook on fan culture and cements him as music's most self-reliant artist. He wasn't the Rolling Stones or the Beatles, both of which were active around the same time as him. He was Bob Dylan and didn't feel the need to feed into this idea that his music was pristine and luxury. Not to say the Beatles really did that or anyone else. In fact, the Beatles were originally scared when they first heard Bob Dylan. They thought his freewheeling album was inspirational.
He was one of them.
He was our idol.
Bob was our hero.
Not an idol, but...
Although Dylan's early music made him an icon of the civil rights and anti-war movements, he rejected being labeled a protest singer. He wanted to speak for himself, not for movements or ideologies. He doesn't call himself a revolutionary, he simply calls himself
the song and dance man, you know.
This refusal to be pigeonholed shows how he trusts his own path over public expectation. He was booed at concerts when he originally started using his electric guitar in the mid-1960s, and yet he persevered and kept true to himself. And in doing so, released 3 back-to-back generational albums in under 2 years, fully placing him as one of music's best. And he was just getting started.
Once upon a time, you dressed so fine, through the bumps of dime in your prime. Then
That is, until he got in a motorcycle accident in 1966, at the peak of his stardom. Instead of trying to capitalize on his fame, he took this time and withdrew himself from the public eye and began working on the Basement tapes, which focused more on rustic, personal themes.
If your memory serves you well, we were going to meet again and wait.
Ultimately, the San Francisco press conference is a small glimpse into Bob Dylan's mind, one that shows that with enough determination and hating, you too can rise above the conventions and truly make a name for yourself.
I don't need my autograph. If you needed it, I'd give it to you.
Just give the autograph, will you?
What's wrong with him today, eh?
That is, if you're special enough.
I mean, what is your whole attitude to life? And when you meet somebody, what is your attitude towards them?
I don't like them.
You don't?
No.